Evening. Welcome to the QCIS channel. On this channel, you get a daily dose of science, technology, engineering, and math. And tonight, I'm going to talk about the 16 sectors of critical infrastructure, and I'm going to show you a curriculum from my alma mater, New Jersey Institute of Technology, of a program that's called the MS in Critical Infrastructure Systems. Now, it's very important that you understand what critical infrastructure is, because if we had an attack, how would we survive the attack? What would we do? Well, there are options. Like, let me give you an example. Say if I had a business and part of my business got flooded out, what would I do? Well, I'd come up with a plan through a command center for business continuity. Now, basically, what would happen with any infrastructure that's critical, if part of your infrastructure is wiped out, you'll have to make some temporary alterations until you get your infrastructure back running at full force. Now, included in infrastructure, you have a few sectors like communication and transportation and chemical and even your hospitals. They're all important because we need those infrastructure segments to live. I'm going to show my screen and I'm going to get right into critical infrastructure systems. Now, a while back, there were 18 sectors, but now there are only 16. Now, the critical infrastructure sectors, whose assets, systems, and networks, whether physical or virtual, are considered so vital to the United States that their incapacitation or destruction would have a debilitating effect on security, the National Economic Society, or let's make a correction here, the National Economic Security, your banks, your national public health or safety, or any combination thereof. Again, if something were to happen to one of these areas of infrastructure, it would affect security, national economic security, law enforcement, of course, public health. Now, the Presidential Policy Directive 21, known as PPT 21, Critical Infrastructure and Resilience, offers a national policy to strengthen and maintain secure, functioning, and resilient critical infrastructure. Now, this directive supersedes Homeland Security Directive 7. I will leave the link in the comment section so you could check out this information. But let's get into the critical infrastructure sectors. First, you would have your chemical sector. Now, DHS was identified as the Chemical Sector Risk Management Agency, known as CIRMA, and Presidential Policy Directive PPT 21. CISA performs the chemical sector CIRMA responsibilities on behalf of DHS. CISA leads the chemical sector's public-private partnership and works with companies to develop tools and resources to enhance the security sectors and resilience. Again, the sector's public-privacy partnership, what they do, they work with companies to develop tools and resources that enhance the sector's security and resilience. Now, what about the commercial facilities sector? Well, basically, the commercial facilities sector protects spaces open to the general public against coordinated attacks. CISA offers strategic direction across 8 subsectors to improve security and resilience in these locations. Then third, your communications sector. Now, the communications sector has evolved into a complex industry of terrestrial, satellite, and wireless systems with many interdependencies. CISA works with the private sector stakeholders to implement the risk management framework to protect all aspects of the communications sector. Then we get into the critical manufacturing sector. And CISA identifies, assesses, prioritizes, and protects manufacturing industries with national significance to prevent and mitigate the impact of man-made or natural disasters. And we get to the dam sector. And in the United States, there are more than 90,000 dams. Now, the dam sector delivers critical water retention and control services. CISA works with sector partners to protect assets from national disasters as well as human-caused and technological events. Now, here's the big one. The defense industrial base sector. Now, in this sector, there are over 100,000 companies and subcontractor supply materials, services, and facilities to the United States military. The defense industrial base sector helps mobilize, deploy, and sustain these military operations around the world. Generally, you're talking about your military bases. Then something that you might not think is critical, but it is critical. And when something is critical as well, we're not just dealing with the civil engineering side of infrastructure. So people talk about infrastructure, they're thinking bridges, dams, roadways. No, there are lots of other sectors, like the emergency services sector. Now, that sector, basically, it supports millions of skilled personnel with physical and cyber resources. See, the emergency services sector helps save lives, protect property and the environment, and assist in recovery efforts after emergencies and disasters. Now, what would fall under the emergency services sector? Basically, you would have your firefighters and your paramedics. And a big one also is the energy sector. Now, the energy sector protects a multifaceted web of electricity, oil, and natural gas resources and assets to maintain steady energy supplies and ensure health and wellness of the nation. Again, the energy sector, it protects a multifaceted web of electricity, oil, and natural gas resources and assets to maintain steady energy supplies and ensures the overall health and wellness of the nation. Now, what about the financial services sector? Well, basically in that sector, with some common sense, that's your banking sector. So by protecting financial institutions of all sizes, from large-scale power outages, natural disasters, cyber attacks, the financial services sector protects your financial assets as well as your ability to access and utilize those assets. Another one that's very important is your food and agricultural sector. And that includes farms, restaurants, and food manufacturing, processing, and storage facilities. And basically, they're almost entirely all privately owned. So CISA provides, again, CISA provides guidance, resources, and collaboration with interdependent sectors to protect against a range of risks. Now, something that you might not deem part of infrastructure. What about your government services sectors? Well, what's housed in the government facilities sector, you have your federal, state, local, and tribunal government buildings and spaces, and they have differing accessibility restrictions and purposes. So the government facility sector helps these facilities identify their unique risk factors and they protect against potential attacks or issues. Then there is the healthcare and public health sector. Now, the healthcare and public health sector focuses on population health and provides the response from recovery actions. Again, the healthcare and public health sector focuses on population health and provides the response and recovery actions needed for large-scale hazards such as terrorism, infection disease, and natural disasters. Now, back in 2020, the Rona was the public health sector and healthcare. And they're still working on approving something to help that virus. Also, influenza and other types of diseases would be part of that healthcare and public health sector. Now, one that's really big, the IT sector or the information technology sector. Now, the nation's growing dependency on the information technology has made the information technology sector mission to identify and protect against cyber threats and vulnerabilities, more complex and important here in the 21st century. And you have your nuclear reactors, materials, and waste sector. Now, from the power reactors that provide electricity to millions of Americans to the medical isotopes used to treat cancer patients, America has an extensive civilian nuclear infrastructure, and they're your nuclear power plants. I know when I lived in the state of Pennsylvania, there were 5 of them. The state of Maryland has Calvert Cliffs. Now, I believe nuclear power is clean. Now, of course, you have some individuals because of the 1979 event in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, they don't believe that nuclear power is good to have at all. Talking about the 3 Mile Island in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, and I have seen those reactors. That nuclear power plant has 4 reactors. 2 of them have been offline since 1979. So that plant is still running on 2 reactors. Now, if you don't know what a nuclear reactor looks like, consider yourself looking at sort of an hourglass shape or steel pitcher. That's what the nuclear reactors look like. They're concrete. Again, I'm a believer of nuclear power. I was on a nuclear powered aircraft carrier, CVN 72, the USS Lincoln. The USS George Washington is another nuclear powered carrier. It's clean. You have to get more people to believe in it. Now, as I move on, the transportation system sector, very important because moving millions of people and goods across the country every day, the transportation system sector is exposed to a limitless number of threats and risks. CISA works to protect these systems and ensure a continuity of operations. And then always remember your drinking water. So water and wastewater systems also has a sector. As I repeat, water and wastewater systems as a sector. Now, when we deal with water and wastewater, access to clean, healthy water is a requirement for all human activity. So protecting the systems that provide water is vital to the importance, to the stability and the health of the nation. And the mission of that's the mission of the water and wastewater sector. Now, I've given you the information. Now, I'm going to go back up and I'm going to show you some examples. Now, in the critical or the chemical sector, what's part of the chemical sector? Well, it's made up of 4 different components. You have basic chemicals, specialty chemicals, agricultural chemicals, and consumer products. That's part of your sector. And I'm just giving you an overview. What about our commercial facilities? Some examples. Basically, the commercial facilities sector consists of 8 subsectors. Your entertainment and media. Example, motion picture studios, broadcast media. Gaming, that's casinos. Lodging, hotels, motels, conference centers, RV parks, and campgrounds. Outdoor events. Examples are your amusement parks, themes. Themes in amusement parks, you can combine those together. Of course, fairs, parades, exhibitions, parks, and marathons. Your public assembly. These are your convention centers, your stadiums, arenas, aquariums, zoos, museums. Now, you might not think any of this makes any sense, but it does, because these are all important to human life. Real estate, where you have office and apartment buildings, condominiums, mixed use facilities, self-storage. Retail, where you have your retail centers and districts and shopping malls. And what do I mean by a district? Downtown. Downtown of any city is a large retail district. Sports leagues, federations, professional sports leagues like your NFL, your NBA, your NHL, your MLB for Major League Baseball. Then we go into our communication sector. What is part of that? Well, you're going to see that for the most part, you're dealing more with your satellites, your wireless, phones, your cable TV, and even some computers, your routers. That's what's part of that sector. What I'm doing is giving you examples of what's actually in the sector. What about your manufacturing sector? Well, this is a sector that you manufacture products using metals like iron and ore steel mills, aluminum production, non-ferrous material production, machinery manufacturing. You also have your electrical equipment, your transportation equipment, your dam sector. Basically, when we deal with dams, energy or hydroelectric power, that's what you use dams for. Also, you can use dams for pumping capabilities, drinking water supplies. And some of those, like your communication sector and your dam sector, they go into energy and transportation. And those are other critical sectors of infrastructure. Your defense, well, basically, you're dealing with your Department of Defense. These are the contractors that make military equipment for the Department of Defense. Emergency services, again, law enforcement, fire and rescue services, emergency medical services, emergency management, public works. Now, why would you say public works? Well, I'm going to tell you, part of your public works are your emergency equipment such as snow plows. See, when you think of critical infrastructure, a number of individuals have on their mind that it's if we got hit by a bomb or a terrorist attack. Those are part, but what you have to clue in are your natural disasters like flooding, tornadoes, hurricanes. Also, you have specialized emergency services, your SWAT teams, hazardous devices like bomb disposal, canine units, public safety dive teams, aviation units, hazmat, SAR, search and rescue, public safety answering points, your 911 call centers, fusion centers, private security guard forces, and National Guard support. Your energy sector. Well, again, this is where you deal with your power producers. You know, power's on grid, and some of your power is generated by coal and nuclear power. And you also have hydroelectrical plants. Again, you have hydroelectrical plants. You have renewables resources, renewable resources such as solar, wind, and thermal. This is all part of examples of what's in that energy sector of critical infrastructure. Then you have your financial sector. Again, you deposit funds and you make payments to other parties, provide credit and liquidity to customers, invest funds for both long and short periods, transfer financial risk between customers, mainly your banks. Food and agriculture sector. And again, this sector combines with chemical, energy, transportation systems, and wastewater. Now, in this sector, this is where you have your restaurants and your registered food manufacturing, processing, and of course, storage facilities. Now, this sector accounts for roughly 1/5 of the nation's economic activity. 1/5. Your government sector. Again, this is where you have business activities that are open to the public, commercial activities, recreational activities. Now, this sector contains highly sensitive information, materials, processes, and these facilities include general use office buildings and special use military installations, embassies, courthouses, national laboratories, structures that may house critical equipment systems, networks, and functions. In addition to physical structures, this sector includes cyber elements that contribute to the protection of sector assets. Example, access control systems and closed circuit television systems, as well as individuals who perform the functions or process tactical, operational, and strategic knowledge. Healthcare. Well, again, this is one that actually goes into other sectors. Emergency services, communications, energy, food, and agriculture. This basically protects all sectors of the economy from hazards, again, such as infectious disease, outbreaks, natural disasters, terrorism. And most of these sectors are privately owned and operated. Collaboration and information sharing between the public and private sectors is essential to increasing resilience of the nation's healthcare and public health critical infrastructure. Also, our IT or information technology sector. Now, what's basically part of it? Well, this is where you have your hardware, your software, and your IT systems and services in collaborations with the communication sector, which houses the internet. And this sector's complex and dynamic environment makes identifying threats and assessing vulnerabilities very difficult and requires that these tasks be addressed in a collaborative and creative functions. That's right, a collaborative and creative fashion. Now, again, the IT sector or information technology sector is operated by a number of entities. And of course, they maintain and reconstitute the network, and that includes the internet. We get into nuclear reactors. Again, you want to know what a nuclear power plant looks like when I told you about the nuclear reactors? These are your cooling towers right here. They look like teapots. That's what your nuclear reactors look like. And 30 states generally, they generate 20% of all the nation's electricity with nuclear power. But that's what a nuclear power plant looks like. These are your cooling towers or your reactors. Now, 3 Mile Island has 4. They don't sit in a row like this. They actually sit in a horizontal line. 2 are online and 2 are offline. And again, this is part of the other sectors as well. Again, I'm going to leave this information at the bottom of the video so you can see it for yourself. Transportation, your aviation, your highway and motor carriers, your maritime transportation systems, your mass transit and passenger rail systems, pipeline systems, freight. Then you have your postal and shipping. And then you have your water and wastewater systems. Again, this is a very important system because this sector is vulnerable to a variety of attacks, not just terrorism, but you got toxic gaseous chemicals, physical attacks, contamination with deadly agents. You also have, you could have dirty water that can affect your water. And also, this sector is also vulnerable to natural disasters. So what I've just provided you gave you all of the sectors and what's in these sectors. Now, again, critical infrastructure is very, very important. Very important. Now, is critical infrastructure engineering? Is it IT? Well, basically, it's an interdisciplinary curriculum while you're in school. Let me see if I can find one for you. In fact, just to key you in, I actually got my second master's degree from NJIT, the New Jersey Institute of Technology. It's one of the best programs out there now. Washington, the University of Washington has a program. Capital College Well, Capital University in Laurel, Maryland has a program. But what really attracted me to critical infrastructure? Well, because it is engineering based, and some of the courses that you take in this curriculum. Of course, these are the 4 core courses. Now you can go into 2 different areas if you go to the NJIT program. You go into the what we call the CILIC, which is the critical infrastructure lifestyle or life cycle management type of program. And this is actually where I went. You have your facilities management, and then you have your program and impact management, and then you have your SISI, which is your critical infrastructure security and emergency management. So you have some courses like one that I took was 614 or 613. 613, this is the development of what we call emergency management information systems. Now, again, very good curriculum. It's an interdisciplinary type of curriculum, and it involves electrical engineering, industrial engineering, environmental engineering, information systems, transportation, management, civil engineering. Also involves elements of infrastructure planning. Good course. I took that course as well. Management science, which is mainly dealing with operations management. Take these 4 courses, learn all about the performance and risk analysis of infrastructure systems, security management of infrastructure systems. You're going to get a second master's degree. This is where to go, especially if you have an infrastructure related degree like architectural engineering, architecture, and civil engineering. But again, it's very important that you understand critical infrastructure, because it's infrastructure that we use so we can maintain our human lives. Now, again, they were 18, they're only 16, but it's critical that you understand why after 9/11, they came up with critical infrastructure. Because we need the infrastructure to continue to survive. And that concludes this topic on critical infrastructure systems. If you like what I just presented, please comment, share, and subscribe. And if you're looking for some political and social content, check out my main channel, the 411 Talk Zone radio show, also on YouTube. Now, if you cannot find the 411 Talk Zone radio show or the QCIS channel on YouTube, you can check both of those channels out on Twitter. Now, because the QCIS channel is an educational channel, you can find that channel on my LinkedIn page. Once again, thank you for viewing this content on the QCIS channel. On this channel, you get a daily dose of science, technology, engineering, and math. Till next time, my name is Leon Jones. You all have a wonderful and gracious evening.